We now have actual open evidence that the Biden White House asked Facebook to degrade the traffic of Daily Wire, my company. According to Just the News and John Solomon, the memos suggest that the Biden White House inquired in meetings with Facebook executives asking whether Facebook could tweak its algorithm to showcase stories from the New York Times and Wall Street Journal over content posted by, quote, polarizing conservative journalists and commentators in early 2021. The memos, reviewed by Just the News, chronicle a series of meetings between the White House digital director Rob Flaherty and executives from Facebook, now known as Meta, in spring 2021, as the first questions about the efficacy and safety of the COVID-19 vaccine began surging on social media. The memos delivered recently under subpoena to the House Judiciary Committee make clear the White House was actively interacting with Facebook and sometimes pressuring the social media giant to moderate content in a way that would encourage more Americans to get inoculations. On April 14, 2021, for instance, the White House's Flaherty asked Facebook whether it could promote the New York Times and Wall Street Journal over the Daily Wire. Flaherty asked Facebook employees, quote, if you were to change the algorithm so that people were more likely to see New York Times, Wall Street Journal, any authoritative news source over Daily Wire, Tommy Lahren polarizing people, you wouldn't have a mechanism to check the material impact? Daily Wire, of course, we are a site that filed a landmark lawsuit challenging the OSHA vax mandate under Joe Biden. Right, we were the only major company in the United States on the right to actually file a lawsuit against the OSHA vax mandate, while other major media American companies on the right were actively forcing their employees to get the shot. We were suing the federal government to stop it. Well, we are not afraid to sue the federal government again. We are not afraid to sue the Biden White House. I mean, first of all, there may be criminal violations right here. Flaherty is cited in the notes as asking the question because, candidly, there's not a lot of trust toward Facebook. And the Biden White House wanted to know whether the platform was, quote, finding things that are effective that you aren't doing to combat resistance to vaccines. In terms of interventions, know that there are groups that are hotspots. Admins have to approve posts. If violating content approved gives the group a strike. I'm uncovering new examples on comments. Public figures on comments might be contributing more. The notes quote the Facebook executives as saying. So we are absolutely pleased to look into the effects on our business of the Biden White House engaging in an absolute First Amendment violation. There's no question this is a First Amendment violation. It is as simple as that. It is a First Amendment violation because the federal government cannot force or even pressure a private company into censoring information. That is a First Amendment violation pretty clearly. And as my friend and lawyer Kurt Schlichter says, it's a criminal violation. Government officials were attempting to use government power to suppress the civil rights of American citizens. I mean, that is right. So maybe there will be a criminal indictment here. Maybe there should be. Certainly, we are examining all of our legal options at this point, and we have no hesitancy whatsoever about going at the Biden and White House again. We did it before. We'll do it again. It cost us like millions of dollars to go after the OSHA vax mandate. We helped overturn the thing and prevent 80 million Americans from having to take the shot if they didn't want to take it. We are perfectly happy to do the exact same thing with the Biden White House right now to stop them from ever violating the civil rights of Americans by pressuring Facebook and other social media companies again. And by the way, we have looked at the traffic on our website and whether it declines in the aftermath of this conversation. Suffice it to say, evidence will be presented. It's an astonishing story. This show is supported by Grand Canyon University. Grand Canyon University, I visited. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's an affordable private Christian university with a vibrant campus in Phoenix, Arizona. It's ranked top 20 in the country, according to niche.com. GCU is a missional, Christ-centered university that strives to foster a culture of community, giving, and impact. GCU's goal is to help you develop into a servant leader who makes a difference through finding your purpose and fulfilling God's plan. It's a beautiful campus. The students are just wonderful. I've spoken there before. With 330 academic programs, over 270 online as of June 2023, GCU integrates the free market system with a welcoming Christian worldview into your bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree. You'll have support from your own university counselor who takes a personalized approach to helping you achieve your goals. Find your purpose at GCU, Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu today. A good life insurance plan can give you peace of mind that if something happens to your family, you'll have a safety net to cover mortgage payments, college costs, or other expenses. Life insurance through your workplace might not offer enough protection for your family's needs. It won't follow you if you leave your job. Since life insurance typically gets more expensive as we age, now would be the time to buy. Policygenius makes it easy to compare life insurance quotes from top companies and find your lowest price. I've had life insurance on me for years and years and years and years. It makes me comfortable that God forbid something happens to me, my family will be taken care of, my company will be taken care of. Let me tell you from personal experience, it is very satisfying to check life insurance off your list. You can do it with Policygenius today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies starting at just $25 per month for $1 million in coverage. Some options offer coverage in as little as a week and avoid those unnecessary medical exams. Policygenius's licensed agents work for you, not the insurance companies. That means they don't have an incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can actually trust their guidance. No added fees. Your personal information remains private. Your loved ones deserve that financial safety net, and you deserve a smarter way to find and buy it. Head on over to policygenius.com/Shapiro. Click the link in the description. Get your free life insurance quote. See how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Shapiro. Today, the former president of the United States is expected to appear in person for his arraignment in federal court in Washington, D.C. So we're going to get another O.J. Simpson day where the president is trailed by helicopters as he leaves Mar-a-Lago, and then he gets on a plane, and then he goes to Washington, D.C., and then he goes into a courthouse, and then he exits a courthouse. And we're going to get all the usual hullabaloo about how this is historic, and it's the biggest thing that's happened in the United States since ever, and it's like an amazing, amazing day for the left. They're all going to be celebrating. They're all going to be woohooing. It's going to be so exciting. We've done this several times at this point because Trump, of course, had to go to New York for arraignment, and then he had to be in Florida and Miami for an arraignment. Now he has to be in Washington, D.C. for an arraignment. So it's the arraignment world tour here with the Trump campaign. And this is not Donald Trump's fault because this indictment is garbage. The indictment, as I discussed yesterday, is charging crimes that are not actual crimes. They are suggesting that Donald Trump, for example, committed some sort of fraud against the government of the United States, which is a lie. That is not, in fact, how that law works. What they wanted to charge him with was incitement. What they really wanted to charge him with was he is the one who created the riot on January 6th. But the problem is it doesn't fulfill the actual elements of incitement because incitement under American law requires that you actually tell people to go do the thing. It is not enough to say, well, I really, really don't like that guy. And then somebody goes and they burn down the guy's house. That's not enough. You have to say, I want you to go to that guy's house and burn down his house, and here's his address. And that the latter is incitement. Trump didn't do that. He said on January 6th, go peacefully protest, patriotically protest at the Capitol building. And then he didn't do enough to get people out. But again, that's not the same thing as incitement. That is not an actual crime. It's just him being a bad president at that time, which, again, his activities during January 6th, I think were egregious. I think his activities between the election and January 6th, particularly in the aftermath of state certification of votes, I think it was wrong. I think it was false. I think none of that is a crime. It turns out you can do lots of things in America that I personally think are egregious, wrong, and damaging to the country that are not crimes. It happens pretty much all the time and every single day. So, former President Trump, again, he's going to show up in Washington, D.C. in order to be arraigned. And this just underscores the fact that not only could President Trump's life be at risk here because he now faces 78 felony charges across 3 criminal cases, if Trump were convicted on all counts, according to Politico, and given the maximum statutory penalty for each one, he would face a whopping 641 years in prison, which I assume means he would not survive prison, although he is 70% preservatives at this point because he eats so much McDonald's and Diet Coke. That is not counting additional criminal charges he might face in Georgia. The actual plausible criminal term is probably nothing like that. In both state and federal courts, judges have wide latitude in sentencing. None of the crimes Trump has been charged with carry a mandatory minimum sentence. Defendants with no prior criminal record rarely receive the maximum. And sending Trump to prison could raise pretty unprecedented practical and legal issues given the fact that right now he's the most likely person to be the Republican candidate for president. So there is the actual real possibility that Donald Trump could be campaigning from prison in the middle of next year, which, again, high drama. And maybe, I would love to see a presidential debate in which Joe Biden, being corrupt with Hunter and having violated the law, you could theoretically have a presidential debate in which you have the candidates in actual jail cells across from each other at Folsom and just shouting at each other across the hallway as flaming bed sheets fall around them, which frankly would be more entertaining than most presidential debates at this point. But is this a miscarriage of justice? Yeah, this indictment should not go forward. I discussed it at length yesterday. Not only that, it is very clear that Jack Smith wants this stuff prosecuted as fast as humanly possible. Donald Trump's defense attorney, John Lauro, he said prosecutors want to force a trial in 60 to 90 days. So if I get my math right, that means that they want to force the trial in October, November, sometime presumably before the primaries begin.
The prosecutor says, let's go to trial. I'm ready in 70 days. Fair enough. You're not ready in 70 days. How about 90? How about 6 months? How about before the election?
How about he had 3.5 years? Why don't we make it equal? Okay. Well, the bottom line is that they have 60 federal agents working on this, 60 lawyers, all kinds of government personnel. And we get this indictment and they want to go to trial in 90 days. Does that sound like justice to you?
Well, maybe.
Is that justice?
The prosecutor's not here to say. Maybe he's investigating so that he's ready to go to trial in 70 days.
Is it justice to force a former president of the United States to trial in 90 days when you've had 3 years to investigate?
Well, as you well know.
So there are 2 things that are happening right here from a sort of political perspective. One is the entire election cycle will now be about January 6th. It'll be about Donald Trump's activities, his legal activities. It'll be about classified documents. That is what the election is going to be about. And that is what Democrats want the election to be about. They would love nothing better than that. This is why you have Michael Beschloss, who's the world's worst historian and writes speeches for Joe Biden, comparing January 6th to 9/11, which again, this is such an absurdity. I'm sorry. January 6th was a rally that turned into a fairly small scale riot in the context of the 2020 riots, which were the most damaging riots in American history in terms of property damage and many lives were lost. Michael Beschloss comparing a bunch of dolts going into the Capitol building. And by the way, killing no one, okay? Because the reality is that the one officer who died, Brian Sicknick, died afterward, and it is unclear that the cause of death was directly related to January 6th. But put all that, the only person who actually was killed that day was Ashley Babbitt, of course. Comparing that to 9/11, in which 3,000 Americans died in a full-scale attack on the United States, including both the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Comparing that to Pearl Harbor, like Michael Beschloss he is a terrible historian, but this is the narrative.
Pearl Harbor, 1941. We were bombed. Our system was very much in danger. Our democracy, many people were getting it up and saying that, the democracy had seen its last days. Franklin Roosevelt helped to put a coalition together at the last minute to save democracy and freedom around the world. 9/11, 2001, Osama bin Laden and other terrorists hated our democracy, tried to destroy it. You see where I'm going. What we see in this indictment is that on January 6, 2021, Donald Trump, just like those other threats to American democracy, tried to destroy our system.
Okay, so he is now comparing Donald Trump to Osama bin Laden and Hirohito. This is where Democrats want to go, and they'd love to run this election. They ran this election playbook in 2020. They ran this election playbook in 2022, and it actually went pretty well for them. I remember a lot of us were pretty exercised about what I think is still the worst presidential speech I've ever seen given. Joe Biden's bizarre and fascistic speech in front of Independence Hall, where he completely misread what liberty is and then declared all of his political opponents enemies of the Republic. Blood red Independence Hall, with the soldiers flanking him in the background. You remember all of that. But it actually worked out fairly well politically for him, so Democrats want to rerun that playbook. So that is point number one. Point number two is that if you bog down your political opponent with lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, criminal case after criminal case after criminal, that keeps him pretty busy. And not only that, if you hit him with a bunch of criminal cases that are pretty obviously politically motivated, it elevates him in the primaries. So Democrats are getting kind of all of the things they want here. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.